Hello and welcome everyone to Integrative Wellness Therapy. I want to introduce to you Rene Duong, a mentee of mine for the last 4 months, working on a capstone project on nature-based therapy. She is completing her occupational therapy doctoral program at the University of St. Augustine's for health sciences, and she's going to share with you a little bit about her studies, and we'll chat about the benefits of nature-based therapy. So please, Rene, can you share with us?
Yes, thank you so much, Lorelei. Hi, everyone. My capstone research explores the benefits of nature supporting adolescents who are impacted by adverse childhood experiences and how practitioners can integrate more nature-based interventions into traditional pediatric clinic. And I am currently in the process of completing a 6-week nature-based indoor program at an outdoor pediatric clinic in my local community. And it has been an honor to have Lorelei as my mentor throughout this whole entire process. And in this introductory video, we will go ahead and look at the healing of nature and non-traditional practices of integrative wellness therapy.
Thanks, Rene. That's how we came together. We see the benefits of nature-based therapy and nature in wellness. So that's how we came together. Before we go on, I want to just share with you a little bit about my background and my philosophy on wellness from integrative wellness therapy perspective. Layers of the human system. This actually comes a little bit from the Eastern medicine or Eastern philosophy, yoga therapy. But we can also look at it from a Western medicine standpoint, the biopsychosocial, emotional, spiritual system. We are a whole body that integrates and works together. Our physical body, our musculoskeletal, has to work in cooperation with our physiology, our hormones, our balancing of the system, has to work with all of our internal organs, has to work with our breath. And then also cooperating with our mind, our cognition, intellect, self-expression, also our values and needs, which are the personality, our preferences, kind of that shapes our behaviors, our emotions, and these are our subjective evaluation of circumstances. And in the middle here, you'll see there is a yellow dot. This is that light within, that inner knowing, that light within. You will see here these little lines here that connect all of these layers. All of these layers work integratively. They connect to one another. Our breath changes our physical, it changes our emotional, it can work towards changing our habits. Our physical body can change how we feel emotionally, etc. So without going into too much of it, I always like to look back to nature and I think of it like a spider web. You know, if you pull a little bit on one area of a spider web, the whole web moves. And it is a coordinated, integrative system. Now that is the human system. And what we're talking about are the physical system. We are particularly interested in the natural environment and how that affects a person. Well, in the whole IWT model, we look at the individual system. That would be those 5 layers here at the center with the inner knowing. And then we have all this other social structure around our youth and around ourselves, from the micro to the macro, from family and friends and educators to local community to societies, etc. And they're all interactive. And then with this also is the physical environment. So integrative wellness therapy model is really, it's taking a number of models and condensing them together and seeing how they work together, almost like rings of a tree. Just thinking again, the environment, the physical environment, the social environment affects the human, and the human affects the social environment and the physical environment. It is, again, an interactive, integrative structure, very much like the rings of a tree. And so that's the philosophy that I come from, that I've shared with Rene when she's doing her research. I've been looking into this, the biophilia hypothesis, which is really important understanding in human health and disease because we're finding more and more research that suggests that proves that contact with nature is essential for human psyche and physical well-being. And some of the newest findings have shown that our physical health depends on influence of nature. Just taking a look at it, and we'll pull out some of these layers and chat about the benefits. So, on the physical layer, did you want to talk about the physical layer for a moment, Renee?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. Thank you so much for that introduction. That was beautiful. What exactly is nature based OT? And I believe that the concept of nature based OT can vary across individuals. I'm sure that Lorelei has a different perspective on what nature based OT is. And I myself also have a different lens when talking about nature based OT. However, when people ask me what my definition is, I tell them that nature based OT is basically connecting occupation to nature and how we can use our outdoor environment to develop our mental, physical, and social abilities and our overall occupational engagement.
Thank you so much, Renee. So, we're going to look at each one of the systems and these different areas of the person and how nature affects the individual. We'll take a look at the physical layer of the system now, and then look at the cognitive layer and look how rich this image is of how she's studying and learning from this leaf, and the emotional layer, how calming this can be, and just being in nature and exploring the movement of trees or how sand runs through your hands. And self-regulation, learning how to adjust to a changing environment, engaging with and understanding a changing environment and exploring. And the social environment, the natural opportunities for communication in a social environment in nature. Learning and being in the environment helps us learn how to adapt and move in different ways in an environment, helping our bodies learn how to regulate in different environments, etc. Beautiful. So you did a bunch of beautiful research on some of these different areas. Can you share with us a little bit about the physical layer, how nature affects the physical layer?
Yeah, so when we're looking at the physical benefits of nature, they say that nature based OT can support physical benefits in adolescence by providing many opportunities for movement, a greater sensory experience, and development of motor skills through various activities such as climbing, running, rolling, and simply just by walking outdoors. And according to research, they say that children exhibit higher levels of dopamine in their brain, and it decreases their symptoms and anxiety. It increases their energy levels when they're engaging in any outdoor activity or outdoor play.
Yeah, thank you. And we know, I mean, obviously nature presents a lot of sensory opportunity. And we know neurologically we need sensory input for motor output. The sensory input is how we learn how to perform motor skills. And then all the natural challenges of climbing a tree or walking across tide pools or anything like that, or unstable environments, all of this provides a huge opportunity to explore and develop physical skills. So thank you. And what about the emotional benefits?
Yeah, so when looking at the connection between a child's emotional health and nature, it can provide a calming and grounding experience by bringing down their cortisol levels and reducing activity in the amygdala, which is the function in our brain that is responsible for our fight or flight response. And this kind of ties into our self regulation skills, which is also called our parasympathetic nervous system. And when building self regulation skills at an early stage of child development, it's super important for their growth and overall occupational performance because having self regulation skills can help a child manage their emotions, their thoughts, and behaviors to essentially adapt to any situation that they're given. Which we all know that during these milestones, children are experiencing so many different emotions and feelings, so learning how to cope and to navigate them is definitely a skill that is learned over time. It doesn't happen overnight. So according to a researcher, Berman, who states that our natural environment provides, like you said, a really rich sensory experience that helps with our emotional regulation skills. So when we're engaging in any outdoor activities, a lot of nature sensory input, such as touching the leaves, that kind of correlates with our tactile system. When we're listening to the birds chirp or the wind blowing, that kind of correlates with our auditory system. And then smelling the flowers or smelling different kind of scents that the environment provides us, that connects with our olfactory system, which stimulates all of these nerves and our sensory system, which can then help the children learn how to manage their self-regulation skills.
There's so much to unpack in what you just said. You have the research behind it. You've done the research to prove all of these changes,
Yeah.
in the body, including how nature kind of dampens the amygdala response and helps a person learn how to regulate. This neural regulation is so integral in terms of learning how and growing, particularly at a stage of youth. There are two times in life where our brain grows astronomically. It grows greater in toddlerhood and grows greater in adolescence. And these are the two times where actually there's pruning, again, a nature based kind of association, but there is actually pruning. It's a use it or lose it principle. Those connections, those neurological connections that are not used will be pruned, and those that are used will grow stronger. So, this is why it is so important to support our youth and learning these kinds of skills at this time, and to be able to learn and use and incorporate nature and some other strategies for regulation and balancing the ups and downs in life, because life is up and down. It is not a straightforward. We can talk about the cognitive level as well.
Yes. So the cognitive benefits of nature when we're exploring and experiencing the outdoor environment, it can stimulate different regions in our brain that is related to our problem solving skills, our creativity, and just overall cognitive development. And nature based activities have been linked to neuroplasticity, which refers to how our brains have the ability to adapt, to change and reorganize itself through personal experiences and our environmental factors and how they impact our brains. So, when looking at one's personal experiences, this kind of ties into our social environment and how we interact with our peers, with the outdoors.
That image of the child where she's looking up at the leaf, there's such a level of curiosity there. The cognitive brain is looking and studying and understanding in a deeper way what a leaf is. I mean, out of that intense curiosity and being present, being fully present with nature. I can refer to also the book called Last Child in the Woods, and they talk about how a child engaging in nature really helps them to understand how the material world works. They show a lot of connections in terms of having understanding nature and how water flows to help them understand the pumping of the circulatory system in the body, things like that. It might just seem like play, but it's not. It's a deeper learning. So let's talk about the social.
So, I found a research article that was written by Bradley and Mail, and they say that nature play offers neurodivergent children with many, many different opportunities for risk taking. They also call this risky play, developing social relationships, the development of their success, and just increasing their awareness, such as a picture that we just showed, their awareness of nature and where everything is coming from. And when kids are playing outside with other peers, it provides an opportunity for them to initiate conversations, dive into their creativity with the flowers and the plants that they're experiencing out there. And I feel like their social engagement is improved in a most natural and authentic way when they're engaging in the outdoors.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of the risky play.
Mhm.
That is important. There's a lot of learning in the risky play because we learn by a lot of our errors. Of course, we want our kids to be safe. I'm not saying that, but allowing that safe boundary of risky play. And this risky play is really undirected play. It's not directed. It's not like, okay, here's first base, second base, these things. It's undirected play, which allows the opportunity for the kids to engage with one another and learning how to communicate with one another about, you go this way, I'll push this, I'll do that, constructing things together. My son used to build forts with his friend out of trees and things like that. And I know of another kid who was building a whole system at his preschool, like streams and etc., and was coordinating with other kids. I mean, that is hard to happen without a nature-based system. But that brings us to this discussion about where you came from. My interest, I want to bring people out into nature. And then I also think there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of places where kids do not have the opportunity to get out in nature. And so that's what the power of your program. And I would love you to speak on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so we all know that there are many activities that we can engage in outdoors that could look like a nature walk or going on a hike, playing outside with chalk, going for a swim, outdoor gardening, plus stargazing, which doesn't really require much effort and it's perfect for your nervous system. If those individuals who don't have the opportunity to engage in any outdoor space, we could always bring that back into and look into our interior space. So inside the home, we can incorporate a lot of indoor gardening. You can also remove house curtains so that you're exposed to natural sunlight, getting some vitamin D every morning to kind of reset that circadian rhythm. You can also engage in a lot of nature inspired arts and crafts. And in my capstone project, what I did was I brought in a lot of nature indoors.
Mhm.
So I brought in a lot of kinetic sand. I brought in tree trunks from real trees. We cut them and we sanded them down and we brought them in so that we could work on a lot of gross motor skills. We did indoor gardening, which they all loved. And this is my favorite one. You can always bring nature by simply bringing nature sounds indoors by using speakers, the smell of our outdoor environment, using essential oils, natural candles.
Oh, beautiful. And what I see and what we've talked about is you've looked at all of the sensory systems. And that brings me back to a discussion when we were talking about the sensory systems. We talked about the five sensory systems that we're familiar with, that nature can bring, awareness of these sensory systems. But we did not talk about vestibular system, which is the sense of movement. So being out in nature, you have an opportunity to swing on a tree branch or walking or maybe swimming, and all of these things is sense of movement, or proprioceptive input like lifting a heavy stone and moving it from here to there. And the beauty of this too is how we might integrate the interoception. How do I feel when I'm in nature? How does my body feel? How does it respond? I mean, there's so much we could talk about with each one of these sensory systems, but really nature, this is again one of the things that I absolutely love about nature, is that we can look at the whole system and all the whole sensory system, the neuroception, interoception, vestibular, proprioceptive, and the five senses we're familiar with. So beautiful. The ideas that you came up with, you're going to share a journal with me, and I'm very excited to see that and incorporating a lot of these materials that you can bring in. And I think too, like, okay, so what about someone who's a place where their materials cannot be brought in? Let's just say, or minimal materials. What if you brought in an ant farm?
Mhm.
And have a look at the ant farm and even discuss. The ant farm is an opportunity to discuss the socialization of the ants and how they share the work and their work ethic and all of this, where you can start actually talking about some of the deeper levels of the person, the emotional, the values, all of these sorts of things. What about a plant? You're talking about the indoor gardening. I love this, very sensory, whatnot. What if you put a plant in a see-through pot and you could see the roots? And maybe you water one a lot and you don't water the other, and see what happens. What happens to the roots? And we want to have a solid foundation in all layers of our system. So looking at the analogies and teaching children, they understand. They understand. If we keep the language in a basic way, they understand in a deep sense. And we're planting seeds. We are planting little seeds. We don't know where they're going to grow or how they're going to grow, but we can plant them and water them. So I love this. And then you were talking about the lighting. Maybe there's no windows, but there are lights that create more of a sunlight effect as well. So there are lots of opportunities, even just bringing a plant in the room.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about the exchange between plants and humans. That would be a whole long discussion as well. Is there some other stuff that you wanted to chat about?
Of course, I just want to say thank you to you for your knowledge and your constant support and your creations of what you have built with IWT. I know that this is your passion and everything that you do, you put a lot of thought and work into it. And so I just want to thank you for all the work that you do.
Thanks, Renee. And it's my really great pleasure to mentor you and other students. It is part of my life's work and part of the rhythm of life, really. And so I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've only been working with each other for 4 to 5 months, and I have learned so much already.
And it's the campfire. You know, the campfire? The campfire is everybody sitting around. And so when you're learning something and you share it with me, or if I'm teaching you and you respond, then I'm actually learning as well.
Right.
So it's back and forth again, an integrative effect.
Yes.
So I thank you so much. I've really so much enjoyed our time together, and I know we'll stay connected. We have a like passion and always here for you. So thanks so much, Renee. I appreciate it.
Thank you.